Yo, what up? It's the feature presentation radio show. It's DJ Sus1, Hip Hop Nation. Ali V is here co-hosting.
Yes, I am here.
We got an actor that's in the building that I think I've seen, not every movie, but I've seen an extreme large amount of them. One of my favorites. Bookeem Woodbine was popping.
What's good? What's good? Happy to be here.
Now, just in case you didn't know, you might have seen him in Jason's Lyric,
Yes.
Devil, Dead Presidents. There's so many movies. Crooklyn, right?
Yeah, I was in Crooklyn, actually.
the remake to Total Recall.
Yeah, indeed.
Spider-Man Homecoming, right?
All right.
Okay.
There's too many movies to name. What's good, boy?
Yo, everything's groovy. I'm just happy to be here with y'all, and, you know, it's good to be in the building.
All right, so Unsolved is the latest project, which is it's basically a movie based on the Biggie and Tupac murder, correct?
Indeed.
So talk to me about this because I feel like it's long overdue a movie like this, actually.
It's a limited series. It's a 10-part limited series on USA starting February 27th at 10 p.m. Those are going to be Tuesday evenings. Basically, what makes this one different from some of the other projects that have come out that dealt with this subject matter is that we are dealing with the investigation of the assassinations. I don't know if you remember, but shortly after they were taken from us, it seemed like there was a media blackout and there was no real information being given to the general public about what was going on with the investigation. We weren't being kept in the loop. It just seemed like they were murdered and that's it. And what we do is we go behind the scenes to let the people know what really happened. And one of the things I found so interesting is that there were people who were invested in trying to get to the truth, but there was no social media back in those days, rather. So, you know, we were in the dark about it. So I learned a lot about what was going on behind the scenes.
You were actually friends with Pac.
Indeed.
Do you remember where you were when the whole entire thing happened, where he passed?
Yeah, I do. The thing is, I kind of thought he might pull through because he held in there. He held on for a minute. You know what I mean? He held on for a minute, and he was fighting and everything. And when he finally passed, I just remember that feeling. I was at the crib in L.A. because I was out in L.A. I'm from Harlem, but I moved to L.A. in '94, and yeah, I remember that feeling.
We're gonna talk more about the series, but it's just that where was I when? I remember I was at my crib. I was in high school when Pac passed. So not to talk about his passing and Biggie's passing, but you experienced the whole entire West Coast versus East Coast beef and what that created, right?
Yeah. I was in the mix in the sense that I was on the West Coast, being from the East Coast, and I remember, you know, the friction in the energy, and it was dangerous, you know, to be honest with you. There was a dangerous element at that time, and even though I had been kind of given a pass from some of the you know, preeminent you know, respected people on the West Coast, I never knew when it could get revoked. You know what I mean? Because of the way things were going. And it would be weird energy, like cats might come from the East, and you know, we all kind of partied in the same environment anyway, and they would see me, you know, polying with some cats from the West and kind of look at me, you know, a little sideways a little bit sometimes, like, you know, what are you doing hanging out with these dudes? But I'm Bokeem. I don't draw lines like that. You know, if you're my friend, you're my friend. You could be from Zimbabwe, you could be from the Netherlands, you could be from, you know, South Korea or wherever. You know what I mean? I don't really care about those kind of borders. But it was definitely a tense time.
Real quick before we take a break. And I'm just, you know, it's such a sensitive topic, so I hate talking about it. So with all due respect, but it was in the media lately that Funk Flex brought to a lot of people thought it was distasteful that he even brought Pac's name up after he passed. But he basically said that he was upset with Pac because he knows that Big wasn't responsible for his robbery. The robbery that took place in Quad Studios against Pac, and he feels like because of that, that's why Big passed and all that. What do you feel about that? Were you cool with Big first of all?
No, I never really knew Big. I knew Pac, but I never really knew Big. I admire his lyrical prowess for sure.
Yeah.
Listen, there's a lot of emotions still to this day that revolve around what happened, and anytime we lose somebody that's near and dear to us, we wonder what might have been or how could we have prevented it. or what could have happened that maybe would have pieced things out and made things the way they should have been. It's normal that people are gonna have an emotional reaction to it, and then 20 years later, for whatever reason, that kind of an anniversary brings up feelings.
Yeah. All right, we'll be right back. Bookeem Woodbine's in the building. It's DJ Sus One. It's Hip Hop Nation. Let's do it. Yo, what up? It's the feature presentation radio show. It's DJ Sus One. I am here. Ali V is here co-hosting.
Yes, sir.
Bookeem Woodbine.
What's good?
One of my favorite actors, by the way. Been in a lot of films. So, Unsolved. I'm really looking forward to seeing this. Now, in your opinion, I mean, you can't tell us everything that's going on. First of all, did y'all talk to people who are actually involved with the investigation to create this series?
Absolutely. One of the resources we were privileged to be able to draw upon was the head of the task force that was formed to try to get to the bottom of what happened to Big, and he was on the set like almost every day, and he was an executive producer, and he had like really in-depth information about the goings on, so we were able to draw upon his knowledge at any given time as to what was happening in that moment. For instance, if I'm doing a scene and it has to deal with handling some forensic evidence or something like that, I could ask him, do you remember that day that this happened? And he would be like, yep, and blah blah blah, and whoop de whoop, and he would give me kind of a perspective that I would never have if he wasn't involved.
I mean, I guess it's hard. There was no social media, no cameras back then the way it is now. But did you ever feel that they were withholding information? Because everybody, the big talk about everybody who was a fan of Pac, who was a fan of Big, was like, how the hell all these years later they didn't find who really, how is it still unsolved?
Right.
Shameless plug.
Thank you, appreciate it. At the time I did. At the time I had all kinds of ideas about what happened. You know what I mean? Because like I said earlier, there was a blackout. There was no follow-up initially after the initial reports of their assassinations. There was no follow-up really. It was like, they passed and they might reference it a day or two later in the media, and then it was just like quiet. So I had all kinds of theories about what happened, and I was off base with most of them.
Tell me about your character in Unsolved.
I play this cat called Officer Darren Dupree, who's still an active member of law enforcement in Los Angeles. He's a high-ranking, highly respected, decorated officer. Detective now. He's at the robbery homicide division, which is pretty much as high up as you can go in local law enforcement in Los Angeles. He was a cat that came from the hood, for lack of a better word, and we got involved in law enforcement at a relatively early age, and he had such a knack for being able to get collars and make arrests and busts and this, that, and the other, because of the fact that his background was from the hood, basically. So a lot of times they would high-ranking officers or cats that were higher up on the food chain than him, they would rely upon him for his intel and this, that, and the other, but they didn't want to promote him. They wanted to kind of keep him where he was because it was convenient for them to be able to go to the well, get what they need, and then then they will get the credit a lot of times. But one of the cats that he was early on in his career that he was working alongside, and when they were working gangs, is the guy who pulled him into the Biggie Smalls task force. So his buddy Greg Kading went up the ranks. Had a very high-profile, successful case that he was able to close, and that put him at the top of the list to head the Biggie Smalls Task Force, is what it was called at that time. And so, rather than forget about his buddy, he said, "I'm pulling you into this task force." And his boy was like, they're never gonna let me do that. I'm trapped here. And he was like, "You don't understand. I'm the head of the federal task force. I get what I want. I want you to have my back on this case." And he pulled him in, and then it was like they was working together again. So that's how we got to be on the task force, and ultimately, which led to him gaining ground in his career and moving forward in his career.
I see.
Now, you've appeared in films with Tupac. How does, the experience, I would say, with you having the familiarity and you playing this role, can you explain what that experience feels like?
It was very bizarre for me because I know that, the guy that I'm playing was there at that time, just like I was. We were both in LA at that time, but we had completely different memories, if that makes sense. So there would be a lot of times when I would try to reference, well, where was I, in LA at that point, because that would help get me into the zone.
Right.
And then sometimes I would look at the material and then I would reference my own memories, and I had to work to separate them and to just draw upon the memories of my own personal memories that might be pertinent to what the character I was playing might be experiencing at that time. So that took a lot of time initially for me to separate the my reality from the reality of the character. So it was challenging. It was a very interesting process.
I have one more Pac question, and then we're gonna take a break, and then we're gonna talk about other things. This is just me being a fan. I'm just curious. I was young. I remember Brenda's Got a Baby. I don't know how long you were friends with Pac for. I don't know if you met him in Harlem or met him in L.A. But when I learned about Pac, Brenda's Got a Baby was out. You know what I'm saying? All those classics, Keep Your Head Up. And then at some point down the line, he was repping the West Coast. And I never really paid attention to it as a kid, but then when I got older, that seemed very confusing to me. So what is your take on that? Because he was originally from Harlem, if I'm not mistaken, and then he was repping the West Coast. Being his friend, do you know why that went down that way at all?
Pac was a very worldly minded cat, so he could absorb energy from whatever environment he's in, and I think that he found what felt like a home for him in the West.
I see.
And he was a loyal dude. So I think that the friends and family that he made in the West made him feel comfortable enough to rep the West like that.
I see. Cool. Yeah. All right, Bookeem Woodbine's in the building. It's the feature presentation radio show with Hip Hop Nation. It's Hip Hop Nation, baby. It's DJ Sus One, the feature presentation. Ali V is here co-hosting.
Yes, sir.
Bookeem Woodbine, what's popping, boy?
What's good?
Now, you took a break for a while from film, right?
Yeah.
Hey, well, it wasn't on purpose. You know what I'm saying?
Really? What happened?
The phone stopped ringing, baby.
Oh, really?
No. I had a slump. I had like a 15-year slump. In between 2001 and 2015, when Ancestors Be Praised, Fargo came out, and it just changed everything. But for 15 years, I wasn't really relevant. And what I liken it to is, if you're familiar with the black exploitation era films back in the day, a lot of those dudes was big willies in the 70s. And then 1980, 1981 came around, and it was no longer relevant. Afros was no longer in style. You know what I mean? There was a lot of things that were hip just the year before that all of a sudden had no relevancy. So I think from 92 up until 2001, I was kind of that guy to the extent that I was, and then as soon as 2001 hit, all of a sudden I just wasn't gelling with the people who make the decisions about who's going to be in what. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I know people say I'm crazy when I mention this, but that's the same year that Bush took office. You know what I'm saying?
That bastard Bush.
That's the same year that he, came into power. And ironically enough, when Obama came into power, 2009, is when I started to see a slight glimmer of hope again.
Nice.
You know what I mean? The door started to open a little bit, and I was still in a slump, but I had hope again for the first time, probably like 8 years or whatever. I started to feel a little bit of hope, and so during his presidency is when I made my comeback. So,
nice.
I think there has to be some kind of correlation. I haven't really broken it down all the way, but basically for 15 years, I just wasn't relevant and that is
Well,
what
keep
it
your
is.
relationships because Trump is in power
Yeah, I
now
was
and
just
everybody's
gonna say
fucked up.
It's wild, right? It's wild. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, should I be worried?
So, what do you got coming up soon? What movies? Because I love a lot of the movies that you've been in, man. I
Thanks,
can't
man.
even believe that you had a 15-year slump because of some bullshit.
Thanks
so,
for saying that, man.
So what's in the works?
Well, right now I'm repping Unsolved pretty hard. You know, that's what I want people to focus on. There's another film called Billionaire Boys Club. Not quite sure when that one's gonna come out, but this fall there'll be a project called Overlord, which is a J.J. Abrams produced film. It's like a sci-fi. It's hard to.
What's it called?
Overlord.
Oh, okay.
Overlord.
Because I read something that you're gonna be in the 4th Cloverfield or something like that.
I'm not sure if Overlord is the 4th Cloverfield or what. See, I'm a mercenary. I don't ask questions. You know what I'm saying? I just like, what are my parameters? What are my weapons? You know, what is my mission statement and my objective? And other than that, I don't really poke and prod. But I guess there is some innuendo out there that's trying to say that Overlord is the 4th Cloverfield project. Yeah. I don't know, but in either event, it's gonna be hot. It'll be out in October.
Nice.
We got some really talented cats in that, and you know, I'm proud to have been a part of that. You know.
Do you think you would do any more? I'm not gonna lie. I didn't get a chance to see Devil, but it was a horror flick. I'm assuming.
Indeed.
Do you think you would do some more? I'm a big horror fan. Do you think that you would do some more horror movies?
Man, yo, probably not.
Really?
No, I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of the genre. I respect it and all of that, but. You know what I mean? I'm from Harlem. I've seen enough horror. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I mean, look, it's. I mean, I like shoot 'em ups. I like samurai flicks. I like kung fu flicks. I like action adventure. You know, I don't mind seeing, you know, violence on screen, but some about, you know what I mean, the Mike Myers and all of that kind of thing. I got to fall back. I can't hang with all of that. You know what I mean?
It's funny. What are you hoping that people get from Unsolved? And the only reason why I ask this is because the younger generation, I feel like they can't really relate to Tupac and Biggie. They don't really bring them up as often. You hear more so like the Drakes and the little legends like Lil Yachty's and people like that.
The little people.
The little people.
Stop it.
The little
Disrespectful.
people.
Yeah.
You know, so what are you hoping that the younger generation gets from this?
I hope that the younger generation realizes that back in those days, we were
good and y'all suck now.
Comedia. No. I think what I would like for them to get from it is that back then we had very limited resources, but a lot of creative energy and a spirit of revolution. Now we have way more resources, technology, funds, all kinds of stuff that we didn't have back then. But the creativity has diminished somewhat, and the spirit of revolution is almost non-existent.
That is true.
All right, listen, we're going to be right back with Bookeem Woodbine. I'm crazy, yo. It's the feature presentation radio show with Sus One. It's Hip Hop Nation. Yo, what up? It's Hip Hop Nation. It's the feature presentation. DJ Sus One. Ali V is here.
Yes, sir.
Bookeem Woodbine is here.
All right.
All right, so Unsolved. How many different parts is it going to be?
It's a 10-part limited series.
Yeah, and it's based on Biggie and Tupac's assassinations. And it's basically based on the investigation side of things, correct?
Indeed.
And I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I want to see how they sold that. You know what I'm saying? He's never going to do a horror movie ever again.
No.
Yo, you get bad dreams too.
Yeah.
Word up.
In closing, where can people find you?
You know
what I'm saying? Are you on social media?
Nah, I don't do social media. Nah,
Why?
Because it was.
Can't
You
get
know how
done
many
with that?
girls are on Instagram? Are you married?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. Delete that last comment out of your memory.
No, but there's too many imposters. Like when I first thought about doing social media, I said, well, let me give it a try. And then I went on there, and it was already like 10 Bokeems on every outlet, or however you say it.
Like
So,
Oh, yo, the fake is real nowadays.
Yeah.
It's right out in the open.
no doubt. And you know, my friends that are in the biz or whatever, they was like, well, you got to let that go because we all have the same issue. You know what I mean? So there might come a time when I'm kind of forced to do it, because nowadays I'm hearing that certain projects, you know what I mean, they kind of, you know, they politely insist that you rep the project utilizing social media. It hasn't happened yet, so as long as I can, stay out of it, I will. A person's more likely to, bump into me in the street and get a dap and a flick than they are to
So you're not going to take selfies for the gram. That's what you're saying.
Nah.
All right. So when is Unsolved airing?
It airs February 27th, Tuesday at 10 p.m. and subsequently every following Tuesday for 10 episodes.
Nice. And that's airing on
USA Network.
Nice. You got it all down packed. I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. Thank you for coming to the Feature Presentation Radio Show.
much.
Thanks for having me. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate y'all.
Love, bro. Bookeem Woodbine. Good looking, boy.
All right.
It's the Feature Presentation of Hip Hop Nation.